Welcome to the REPO4EU Podcast, the program that brings you closer to the latest innovations, research and developments happening in drug repurposing across the globe. I'm your host, Alexandra Rodriguez, and in today's episode I have the pleasure of talking to Fernando Delgado-Chaves. Originally from Seville in southern Spain, Fernando holds a bachelor's degree in biotechnology and a master's in advanced bioinformatics analysis and health biotechnology. After completing his PhD in bioinformatics, Fernando moved from Spain to Germany, where he's currently based. He now works at University of Hamburg as a junior group leader for the Institute of Computational Systems Biology, where as part of the REPO4EU project, he applies his expertise in generative AI for biomedicine for the advancement of efficient drug repurposing pathways. I hope you enjoy this episode with Fernando and that you get to learn more about the fascinating applications of AI in medicine. Hi Fernando, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Alex, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it would be good to start our conversation today, Fernando, going a little bit back in time. What made you decide to pursue a career in science?
Well, I guess it's a very difficult question. Nobody really knows when we are 18 years old, like to decide our future, right? Like what is it that we're going to be doing for the next, 30, 40 years. So in my case, as a teenager, I was very fascinated by biology at the beginning. Like it was purely how is it possible that cells could pack in their genome like everything that makes up like the little pieces of ourselves, right? Like how all the features, all the traits that we see in humans, they just emerge from this hard codification. And in the end, I now see that it has a lot to do with actual informatics, right? It's in the end a code that we are deciphering. So it all started with biotechnology alone, but I knew I wanted to do something that could help people, that could be useful to society, but at the same time satisfy a bit like this curiosity about how this complex, fascinating machinery works.
I'm very curious to know from your point of view, fields like biotechnology, biomedicine, computer science applied to healthcare or medicine are still fairly new fields, I guess that's fair to say. So why do you think now we're seeing more and more people getting into these fields in particular? Like, where do you think this drive comes from? Why do we need these very specialized roles? And what benefit do they bring into, let's say, the world of medicine or healthcare in particular?
All these disciplines, biology, medicine, computer science, they kind of really go hand in hand. So it's really important to be able to connect things together, right? To connect fields and to see how you really need all these tiny little pieces to push research. The way I would explain it is that we, of course, need to look into the intricacies, the molecular mechanisms, the intricacies of cells. So there is no possible way we can study this just piece by piece. And that is where informatics comes in and computer science. Nowadays, with AI, we are able to understand like lots of all these different components all together just because we are able to explore all this information that is available out there. This is basically what we do here. We work in all these biological pieces that are important for healthcare, but we cannot look at them using traditional methods. It's a sweet time to be alive with the power of AI, don't you think so? Like we can really now like look at them all together.
Thank you so much for explaining from your point of view, because I think it's a world that is probably unknown for many people, but it's so fascinating. After you finished your postgraduate courses, then you went on to do your PhD. What was the decision behind going into academia instead of going into industry?
I was driven already by this curiosity of continuing my education. There is something that I really, really enjoy about science and I really, really enjoy about PhD. And that's probably why I decided to go on this journey. And I love learning. I really love engaging into a topic, getting to know the nitty gritty of this and discovering like how fields expand and there are more possibilities over there. Like there's always so much to learn. And I really enjoy the process of gathering information, discovering problems, trying to find solutions to those problems. Sometimes the tools that you need are not in the main field you started with, and that's where computer science comes in. So for me, it was really this wish to learn more and continue my education a bit further in a completely different way. The main difference between how you learn in your academic journey, like during your bachelor's and during your master's, is really guided, right? Like you have some topics you need to go through, pass some exams. During your PhD, you basically need to learn, and you really need to enjoy the process over there. So it's a lot of self-teaching and a lot of digging down the holes that you are most interested in. And this is something I really enjoyed.
And what was that big question, let's say, that you were trying to answer through your PhD? What was the key focus during your research?
Well, PhD for me took 3 years. I'd say that's standard in Spain. I was very interested in figuring out what is going wrong in your cells, in your tissues, when it comes to complex diseases. One example everyone can think of when I say complex diseases is cancer-related diseases. Why a cell decides to go crazy, right? And start dividing and expanding and multiplying without any control. So one way to look into what is going on in those complex diseases is to look at the main fundamental parts of cells. I worked a lot with gene expression data to figure out which molecular mechanisms, which disruptions are there in human cells in a specific disease context. In the end, when you look at gene expression data, it really looks like a numerical matrix. And then we need advanced ways, computational ways, to analyze those in a smart way to make sense out of these huge data sets. So that was what I was trying to do during my PhD, right? I took as a baseline this gene expression data to construct some algorithms that could explain to me and to others which molecular mechanisms are broken basically when we compare a patient with a specific disease against a healthy patient. And we worked a lot on that, like how to turn this way of describing diseases into something we could afterwards therapeutically tackle.
Now you're in Hamburg, in Germany. So tell me a bit more about what your role is nowadays. What does your day to day look like? If I had the chance to come and, let's say, film you for the day and spend the day with you, what would that look like?
My role keeps changing, like I would say it's normal at early career times. I also discovered a new passion, which is generative AI applied to biomedical research, like ChatGPT applied to research, and how we can leverage the power of those artificial intelligences to make research more efficient and simplify different tasks and automate different tasks that we deal on a daily basis. My role changed in terms of managing too. I have my research hours, but I also train students. I have multiple masters and bachelor students, so I see them as my team. So I would say it's really a mix of researcher and manager.
It sounds like you're probably very busy during the day and during your weeks.
But I always try to keep some free time, In the end, it's also so important to work out, to do something for yourself. And Hamburg is a great city to do so. So it's also quite, keep a balance.
Before we jump into your involvement in REPO4EU, you mentioned you discovered a passion for generative AI and how we can make research more efficient. This is obviously a very hot topic at the moment. It's been for the last few years, even more so now. How would you approach a conversation with a researcher or someone who works in science who's been a little bit scared or a little bit dubious about using these tools? People talk about the pros and the cons, the ethical biases, and all these things. So, is there like a message that you would like to share with them for someone who's like struggling to understand the benefits that AI would bring into medicine, into research in general?
Yeah, that is definitely one of the hottest topics in generative AI research, right? What I can say is that it has fully changed our lives and that this is here to stay. Of course, it's transforming different fields and different industries. One of the most common use cases that I constantly deal with is that we live in a scientific world where 200 papers on your same research field are published every week or every second day, even I would dare to say like every day. So there's a huge amount of information. It would take a lifetime to catch up, like you could never read those. So the way we access information that was fully transformed. We now use AI-powered search engines that are able to find scientific literature that could be relevant to you in a faster and more efficient way. We are also working on tools that can read papers for you and suggest a final list of articles that could really be of your interest. And that is something that could really accelerate research, because a lot of time we are just trying to come up with something new, but we discovered it was already published, or we discovered it was already done in a slightly different way. So why not, using the information that is out there? Of course, nowadays we call it like involution, information pollution, and AI is definitely one way to access all this information out there in the world in a faster way. And I think nowadays we need proper training on the responsible use of generative AI. And that is so important. Learn how to use it correctly, learn how to use it for a good reason. We lack this training where it's still so new. There are still few guidelines, and still to the majority of the population, these tools remain a bit obscure, right?
Absolutely. And especially in a field like medicine and healthcare, there could be a lot of concerns around the usage of personal data and clinical data. And I guess this brings me to what we're doing, the work that we're doing at REPO4EU at the moment. We're having these conversations across the different work packages and also with external stakeholders as well. Can you tell me a bit more about what your involvement is with the projects and how you're contributing to this European initiative?
So I'm a member of Work Package 2. Basically, we deal with crafting the bioinformatics software that is gonna be underlying the REPO4EU platform. There is a huge team there of bioinformaticians, computer scientists, a lot of expertise on algorithmic design, programming, high quality software. But I also contribute to Repo4EU in other ways. I would consider myself a bit more of a generalist. When they talk about diseases and they talk about genes and cells, I really understand. I mean, that was my original training, right? But I also enjoy like these new chapters about communication. Like I try to contribute to whatever I can with generative AI knowledge here and there, how to craft content, how to communicate better. And that is a bit my role over there. I contribute to the technical side of the platform, designing solutions that other people can afterwards test. I'm very much interested in a user-centric development. That means that I interview lots of people, right? I try to check who is going to be using this tool in the future. So my role there is also managing that we come up with a final product that people want to use.
And for someone who's not familiar again with not only the project in itself, but the big goal, which is to create this platform, can you explain in a nutshell what the platform is and who would be using it, what we're expecting it to do once it's out? So, what can you tell me about the platform?
Well, like the platform is currently still under development, but I'd say it's a very exciting journey to bring all these different fields together. First of all, the platform will offer bioinformatics solutions to explore molecular data. Why does this matter? Well, because like, as I said from the beginning, we are trying to look at diseases here on a different perspective. We are trying to figure out which is the root cause for diseases. And for this, we need to look at the molecules in your body. We need to look at biomolecular data to look into that. The platform offers solutions to understand which are the molecules, the mechanisms of the cell that are disrupted, that are broken, let's say. And this way we can have like different software in there to figure out which drugs that are available out there could be reused to target this specific mechanism and treat patients with this disruption inside these cells. I know it's a bit abstract, I know, but let's say it's very difficult to treat patients if you don't know what is actually disrupted or broken in their cells. Many times we deal, like many medical doctors can deal with patients where they can observe a certain symptom, like they are coughing or they have high blood pressure, but it's really hard to get into why exactly this person now is developing this. Of course, it's a mix of your gene, your genetical background, right? The mechanisms that could be affected, but also environmental factors like smoking or living conditions. Even I would even dare to say like socioeconomical factors. It's really complex. So the platform offers a solution to look into molecular data in this regard and try to find root causes of disease, and tries to streamline the entire process of drug repurposing. The platform also allows or offers guidance in terms of IP, so patentability of the approach, and other legal frameworks that should be taken into consideration along the way. So it's very comprehensive and it involves expertise from a very heterogeneous team.
In that point of view, if we go back to, the beginning of your journey, how much you loved learning and absorbing different concepts from, different fields. You just mentioned also the interdisciplinary aspect of the team involved in REPO4EU. Is this an aspect you enjoy from being involved in this consortium and in this type of projects?
It's definitely a great opportunity to learn from them. In the end, you get to meet really interesting people in this European initiative, and you get to understand how they think and where they come from. The idea of working in a team where we can all contribute a piece of our expertise is really appealing to me.
I have an extra question actually for you, because when I was doing research on your profile and what you've been up to all these years, I saw that you have a keen eye for photography. Do you think there's always a duality in scientists that are also highly creative? Because this is something that I think is really intriguing for me.
Well, that's true. But actually, before I was a scientist, I was a professional photographer. I was working. I love it. I really enjoy this passion, and I even managed to do it professionally, and especially like working with social media content, which is I think also from there I take also this passion for communication. So I try to be. I'm very much aware of the relevance of social media in today's research. I think researchers should be more often out there. People don't really put us a face, and that's also important. In the end, communication is key. I would like to really fight those cliches of our scientists being um a bunch of nerds closed in a room. We really, I mean, definitely there is a passion in there, right? When you work in science, and when you have this drive, creativity always jumps in. So thinking of solutions, designing new approaches, brainstorming, there is a huge creative process. The ability to craft it all together, create something new, give it your personal touch. There is a lot of that in science. And I also learned it a lot from great scientific communicators and researchers I admire.
This takes me to the last question for our conversation today. One of the aims of this podcast is to hopefully inspire younger scientists and younger people in general to understand more about the world of science and the journeys that you'll take when you go into a PhD or as a researcher. So, drawing from your own experience, from your own story, what would your advice be to them? What would you like to share with them?
I think definitely science is a fascinating journey. I do encourage people to not be afraid of it. As a student back in school, I was really bad at math, chemistry, and science subjects in general. I was always like better at art, drawing, literature, and languages. I was having a passion for it. I really enjoyed it, and I took it as a challenge. But besides this, it's like nothing to be scared of. I think science can really open up your mind in so many ways. They can teach you critical thinking, which I believe is so important in today's society. My advice would be, if you find a little passion and you have this curiosity, then go for it. Science can really bring this satisfaction of collaborating with teams, exploring something new, something that is cutting edge, designing your solution and bringing some advance in a field that is greatly rewarding, but it's also contributing to a greater good.
I think this is a great way to end our conversation today. So, essentially, do not be afraid of science. And if you have a passion, go for it.
And enjoy throughout the process. Like science is a never-ending learning process, so you have to really be okay with it. And if you enjoy the way and you enjoy what you do, then you're probably on the right track.
Thank you so much, Fernando. It's been amazing getting to speak to you today. And thanks for sharing a bit more light into the world of science and what you do. So, I'm very sure we'll see each other around. So, best of luck with all your research and everything you're doing for the project as well.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
For more information about REPO4EU and the mission behind the project, please visit REPO4EU and make sure to follow the project on all the social media. We're on X, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube. If you simply type REPO4EU, you'll find us there. Until the next one!